Good morning, everyone. Join us once again for our weekly broadcast. It's Thursday, 10 a.m. again, heading towards the back end of January already. So delighted you're taking time once again to join us. And for those that are watching on YouTube later, we welcome you as well. So this morning, we have a very special guest in Tina Wenham from Target 5. Good morning, Tina.
Morning.
Delighted to have you on again. We'll be hearing from you in a few minutes as you help us go into detail on some very exciting news for our platform. So looking forward to that. Before we get into that, just once again, welcome my co-host, Mr. John Corey of Property Fortress. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good. How is everybody else? The audience now all runs to the microphone to tell us. Oh, sorry.
Yes, which is a good time actually to remind me, to prompt me that we do encourage engagement from the attendees on the broadcast. If you use the Q&A box, please don't use the chat. If you use the Q&A, that means everyone can see your comments. John and I can keep an eye on it. So if you have any comments in general about property or something that John or Tina or myself say, then by all means ask the question or make the comment in the Q&A box. So obviously it's a weekly broadcast. You've been introduced to John Corey. I'm David Johnson, the CEO of LEOcrowdfunding. We're an equity property crowdfunding platform. John, you're still in the States. What time is it over there at the minute now?
Hey, you're not supposed to like timestamp these recordings because the YouTube audience is watching this when they get to it.
And the time currently?
5:03.
5:03. You see, week after week, we keep sort of having sympathy for you that it's really early over there. But just speaking to Tina reminded me that she's up at about 4:30 a.m. every single morning out with the horses. Tina, isn't that right?
Yeah, 4:30 a.m. this morning. 5 o'clock I was at the yard, -2.5 ice on everything. Pretty great.
So while John looks sympathy for 5 a.m. in a nice warm house in the States, you're at 4:30 a.m. out with the horses and -2.
Yeah, but I love it.
That's tell you what, John's getting no more sympathy going forward. Definitely not.
Yeah, it's last time Tina's here.
No.
Okay, so before we get into our main topic for today, which I'm really excited about, let's just do a quick property market update. And this is just a quick snapshot of what's happening in the world of property and the property market in the UK. And I picked out this one for this week. And yeah, again, it's the usual caveat of newspapers print headlines to sell papers, but behind some of the headlines, obviously they have some statistics that they base those headlines on. And this one is potential sellers ask for 44% more valuations than last year. So I think this was literally just for January. So January 20, it must be for even the first couple of weeks of January, 44% jump in valuation requests. So John, any observations on that? Is this normal for the time of the year, or what's fueling this extra requests from potential sellers?
So I have no idea if it's normal for this time of year. We've seen a big run up of prices, and what's quite funny is when Omicron came around about a year ago now, house prices, whatever. Then 2 years prior, when we first had COVID, as prices are going to fall, people are on furlough, and then people are going back from furlough, prices are going to fall. So it's great press, that this stuff is up, it's down, but it doesn't go down, it tends to go up, but no one wants to talk about that. So again, as you said, it's a great way to write headlines. Now, there's a general shift in the sense that people are rethinking housing. They're looking at how they live, where they work from home, space, time with the family, all the rest of it. So there is a bit of turbulence, and that is causing people to tend to maybe look at bigger houses. They haven't spent a lot of money on clothing and transport and all the rest. So maybe what we're just seeing is a very small slice of the market being extrapolated to the whole market.
Yeah. It is. It's interesting because, you know, while you can make statistics say almost whatever you want sometimes, yet there's some sort of a trend, you know, whatever the reason behind it, there does seem to be a significant increase in those requests, in a context of everyone saying the market's going to slow down, the market's going to stabilize. From your point of view, Tina, obviously you're on the ground, obviously buying and selling. What do you think may be impacting this, or what's your take on that sort of headline figure?
I mean, I think, you know, I agree with John in that the press will find the headline to meet the narrative they want at this particular time. But I do think that it's almost feeding itself. So you've got a traditional uplift in valuations in January, February anyway. Historically, that's normally what happens. People start to think again about their house move this year, or even pulling money out of their property. I read an article the other day that retirees are going to pull more money out of their property this year than they ever have, according to another headline. Who knows if that's true? But I think the press has been telling us interest rates are going to go up, the market's going to drop, there's going to be a shift in the economy. So as a result of that, people are looking at what their options are. So I think it's natural that this would happen. The proof will be in the real statistics in 3, 4, 6 months' time of house sales and the numbers, the actual numbers. Valuations are valuations, you know, anybody can get a valuation. It's those that actually move or sell. And I would just point out that this may be true, and the market and the prices have increased for residential properties. The commercial side of things and things that need refurbing and things like that is actually a completely different story. That's actually probably seeing a slight squeeze.
Okay, very interesting point, very good point, about ultimately sales is the key figure, not just valuations. That's a really good point. Okay, well, thanks for that. We'll continue to keep an eye on anything that jumps out of the press. So, okay, I need to have the virtual drum roll come through on the sound. So
that was weak. Try it again.
Was that weak? Was it? Yeah, make it louder.
I was hoping for some fanfare, sound effects, you know, animation.
Oh, David.
As I can see John smiling, because my technical skills just, you know, I can get a PowerPoint up, Tina, but don't ask me to start getting too many music things moving, things like that.
Yeah.
We did announce this last week just by way of a mention, but as a platform, we have our first project that has successfully paid back to the investors, a very, very significant milestone for the platform. Thankfully, we've actually got another 2 that are very, very close to paying back, so that's going to be excellent. But I know there's a little bit of a race among some of the fundraisers to who would be first, but first over the line was Tina and Andy of Target 5, and this was their West Buildings project. And this project was a refurb of mixed-use premises in Worthing. There was 142,538, to be precise, raised from the platform from 27 different investors. And do you want to just briefly, Tina, just remind everyone what this project was in terms of you seeing it as a project and bring it to the crowd?
Yeah, we were brought this project as a pre-market from one of our local agent contacts, secured it before, saw it before anyone else, secured it very quickly, saw the opportunity. It was a very large building just off of Worthing seafront, so prime location that had been earmarked, a location that had been earmarked by the local council for regeneration. So we knew that there was going to be some capital uplift in the area generally. It was a very rundown nail bar with a premises upstairs that was being lived in by quite a few people illegally. It had a notice from the council because it had been clearly being used as a HMO, but wasn't a HMO, wasn't regulated, any of that. So we refurbished it to form a 6-bedroom HMO. We got originally we were going to create 2 flats, a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom, but it actually worked out better to do a 6-bedroom HMO. And we got planning for one of the bedrooms on the ground floor, which just incidentally you wouldn't need to do now, because you can convert commercial under permitted development rights. So the planning laws have changed even since we did this one, which is just an interesting point in the area. So and yeah, it rented beautifully. We had to turn the phones off with the inquiries when we launched it. It was just mad. With 25 people booked in to see it just from the coming soon ad. The open day was really busy. It was even right in the heart of COVID as well. So we'd done the virtual viewing, we'd done the video tours, and then we still had 25 people who physically wanted to come and see it. So, and it's got a commercial premises that we've retained on the ground floor. We've retained some commercial space, and then we had an opportunity to sell it rather than keep it. And we looked at our overall business strategy, and just from a sort of keeping the cogs moving and the wheels turning of the business from a cash flow perspective, and where the market is for finished residential properties, we wanted to maximise on that opportunity of the capital uplift in the area. So
okay, yeah, that's good. We'll mention some of the figures in a minute, to give people an idea. But yeah, no, thanks for that. So it ended up being 142.5% over the minimum raise amount. So absolutely delighted in this. So obviously those investors who became shareholders in this SPV got their monthly updates. Again, I think Tina, you guys did a really good job in keeping the shareholder investors informed. There was this monthly update with obviously how the refurb went, and then when you managed to rent some of the units, you were informing them of how the rental income was going, etc. So and I know obviously as a business you're very conscious that your investor shareholders are very much partners, so I know you understand the value in keeping investors up to date.
Yeah, definitely. It's you know, we very much wanted to embody that sort of earn as you learn strategy, and this was a great project to do it, because there were some challenges we had to overcome. There were some nice surprises, there were some delays, as there always is, and I think that's all good information for anybody who is looking at either investing again or doing their own project, which I know some people who invested in this are considering. So yeah, it's not all sunshine and roses, but there are some there were some good fun bits as well.
the sun shone at the end, which is the important part for the sun to shine.
Yeah, it did.
I can remember way back at the very start, we did some project webinars before we had this funded, and we were just launching it. You showed the mood boards of the internal design, and I think that caught a lot of attention with potential investors, and certainly I remember remarking on it. I've been involved in refurb and buy-to-lets sort of in a previous life. I was quite sort of impressed with the way you have the whole mood board and design of the property. So the photographs here are the finished property, obviously a bit of a filter over them, but you know, you've delivered very much on those mood boards. That's something that you like to do in terms of the internal design.
Yeah, we're really lucky that we've got a team of quite creative people here. We sort of have to be, really, to sort of overcome some problems. But Shelley, who works in the office with us, she's our office manager. She's very creative, and actually it's part of her remit and her job to see what is popular and listen to feedback from previous developments from tenants, which is really, really important, because it's all very well and good having a bright yellow wall or a bright orange wall or whatever you're going to do, but actually, is that practical? Is it, you know, does it mark? Is it hard wearing? So we have to consider all of that in that. But the mood board is really fun when you see the concept delivered, as well as seeing the bits that you had to change within that concept as well, which is quite an interesting bit as well. So,
yeah, I remember the feature wall, the kind of, as you were doing the renovation, this wall or the original brick was there, so you'd actually just turned it into part of the feature then. which is quite nice.
The builders actually called us one day and went, "Are you sure you want us to plaster over this beautiful flint wall?" We went, "What beautiful flint wall?" So Tim, the project manager, quickly shot down to site to have a look at the integrity of it, the condition of it, because you have to, as I say, you have to make sure you're providing a quality product. And it's all, sometimes those walls, when you expose things like that, cannot produce sort of that standard that we're always striving for. But with a little bit of help from the builders and a little bit of work on that wall, in sort of bit of repointing and a bit of waterproofing and fireproofing and all of these sorts of things, it came out really nice. So we're really pleased with that. Didn't make any saving through not plastering it, because we had to treat it, but the effect was far greater. So
yeah, no, it looks very, very good. So I think, am I right in saying that should be a video? It is. There we are.
Oh, this is our before and after.
Yeah, this is just the before and after ones. Will give people just an opportunity. Again, feel free to make any comment you want as this just plays through.
It's just mad to see it. Like, I remember going in there when it was still tenanted by the people that were living there that shouldn't have been living there. Actually, this was obviously once we got our hands on it for a little bit. We actually managed to get access between exchange and completion for the rip out, which is a really good tip for people. Actually, if you can get that arranged, you can essentially start your work before you actually start paying the mortgage or start paying your sort of finance costs on it. That's quite an interesting thing. You have to make sure you have all your right insurances in place, and you have to make sure your solicitor has got that wrapped up. But it's quite
There's a question. So you mentioned the flinting needed fireproofing, or the brick wall needed fireproofing. How much work was that, or what can you say about that?
So it has to, anything exposed in a HMO has to still meet fire regulations. So for example, we've got some exposed steels in there as well. I don't know if you can see it in the kitchen picture, but we painted that in the yellow to sort of match the theme, but that had to be a fire resistant paint, in the same way that the wall had to have some fire resistant treatment on it. It's sort of, in case there's anything flammable on there, if there were to be a fire, especially in a kitchen.
Okay, very good.
Area, you just want to be sort of belt and braces as you can possibly be with those sorts of things. We don't take any risks with that. We go over regs on everything we do.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions, John? Was there?
No, that covered it.
Brilliant. Okay. So getting into the numbers, Tina, which obviously is the key part for the investors. The nice orange walls and the fireplaces are all great in the right place, but obviously investors want to say, what did my money make me? So the purchase price of the building obviously was there originally at 237,011. And then the total refurb and all the associated costs came to 200,895, which I think was a little bit higher than what was originally planned, but given COVID, etc., fully understandable. So the whole total came to 437,906, and you actually then managed to sell it at 565, which was quite a bit above what the original forecast of the value would be on completion. So I can understand why it made sense to take advantage of the market. So the net profit on that, I think, was 91,000, and then your rental income. So and you want to sort of add to that, or in terms of
just to sort of comment on the refurb and costs. The refurb, I think the actual physical refurb we predicted would be about 147, which was what the raise was. The actual cost of the physical refurb, I think, came in at about 159. But then there were some associated things like we're going for that planning for the bedroom, and we had some unexpected roof works, a couple of other little bits which just came up. There was a drainage issue which I won't go into, and this time in the morning people might be having their breakfast, but there was a few things that came up. So there's things like, you know, planning costs involve planning consultants costs, drawings, things that additional things that needed to be done, as well as a little bit of a delay through COVID with the build actually getting done, which, you know, increased finance costs and things like that. So it all adds up, which is why it's really important to try and keep to time. I think one of the biggest expenses as a developer is time. You know, anytime you're holding other people's money or holding banks' money, it's costing you, for extra time, it's costing you, and always try and bear that in mind. But we're really pleased with the outcome, and yeah, to sell it over what our predicted amount was, actually to somebody that we know. So
Okay.
and they're actually a music PR company, and they're going to be creating a destination there for professional sharers in the music industry, and then creating like a cafe music hub on the ground floor. So it's going to be a really nice space. So it's sort of, we're still going to know the journey. We're a bit sad to see it go because we kind of envisaged in keeping it, but it also was, which isn't mentioned in any of the numbers, and it's not the sort of thing you can financially quantify, but it got to the final four for the Property Investor Awards for HMO of the Year. So we're really proud of that as well. So didn't quite make it, but final four.
Okay, no, good. And
so from an investor communication point of view, this was meant to be a 5.5, 5.75 year project. The investors were in for the long term, buy and hold. Then you made a decision as a company to switch courses. Any feedback from the investors?
Actually very positive, I think, unless David knows otherwise. But I think the thought process and the reasoning behind doing it was clearly the right decision for the project, given the potential uncertainty in the market, the potential uncertainty in a rental market even. We wanted to make sure that this was a success as well. So that's really important for the investors as well as us. But, you know, I will welcome feedback. If anybody was disappointed, we'll always have that conversation, but certainly wasn't the feedback we had, unless David can.
So just before David, the other thing that was interesting is, as a project sponsor, as the fundraiser, you're fully in charge, and the crowd investors are essentially a passive group of investors, and they're riding along on the journey. And I would, putting words into your mouth, I would think it's rather positive that you have that discretion or that control to make that decision on the fly when it comes to, you know, what this is what we wanted to do, but now we have a new opportunity, so let's pivot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's pivoting and, you know, overcoming adversity and looking at what opportunities lie ahead and making decisions based on that is something we've always been really, really good at. And I'm very grateful that the investors trusted us with their money to make those decisions on the project. But I think, you know, it is important that you can make those decisions and not be too blinkered to what your original plan was. You've got to always keep looking at the bigger picture. You know, David and I were talking about it earlier. You've always got to be looking at, is this the right path? Is this the right journey? Are we making the right decisions? And not be too egotistical to go, no, we need to change course because of X, Y, and Z. And that's really important. So to success of business.
That's a very good point, that, you know, decisions sometimes have to be made, and you know, definitely ego can't get in the way. And in terms of answering John's question, I think I can answer it in two ways. I think the investors, probably almost to a person, are very, very happy in terms of they've invested in the project. The project has been successful, and as you can see on the screen there, has paid back an ROI of 14.56% in 13 months. The project was completed in under 12, but then there was a drawdown process. So at that level, John, I think the investors are absolutely delighted. We've had fantastic feedback from people who obviously believed in Tina and Andy and T5 and the team enough to put their money in, but it was still the first project they had done through crowdfunding. So this was the first investment these investors had made. So there's very, very pleased that it's become successful. That's not to say there isn't some investors who would have liked to have stayed on the journey for 5 years. As you say, John, this was originally going to be payback 70% after 1 year when the property was refinanced, and then the other 30% would stay in for the next 5 years, and it'd be like a rental share. So it became like an income type investment, of which some investors like. So that would have been I think a very positive journey, given the success of the project, and with capital growth, would have been potentially a very nice story in 5 years' time. But I think the good thing is, from Tina's point of view in T5, is obviously this money has now been returned to the investors, and as we'll talk about in a minute, Target 5 now have another project that's on the way. So investors are now have been given choice back again. So rather than the funds been tied up for 5 years, funds are back in the account, and if they want to find another income type product, if that's what they really wanted to do, then they can do that. Or if they want to back Target 5's next project, then they can do that. So I think, John, choice for investors, when you're a passive investor, I mean, I know you probably would prefer the 5-year journey, but speaking with your investor hat on, the value of having your money back in your account to make a fresh decision on where you spend it, that has value, I think.
I would say that's a negative, having to make a fresh decision. But I like, sometimes you take your profits off the table. That's good. You lock it in, and as Tina pointed out, there's this dynamic in the sense that you set out to do something. You set out with certain planning assumptions, with certain assumptions about the interior, and then an opportunity comes along, and if you can get, essentially, I think this was the target exit value after 5 years. If you can get that after 1 year, like, take that and move on to the next project. Most of the value in this project is from the uplift in value of the redesign of the layout. Well, now you can take that capital and go do another project, so you can create that sort of big hit up front. So yeah, I mean, I was a cash investor in this, and I talked to one of the others who was particularly interested in long term, and we both concluded that it's always good to get your profits back. And it's like, but now we got to read it up on another deal. We got to read all the documents.
That's actually a good point. I hadn't thought of it in that way. You being like an experienced investor, for want of a better description, as opposed to maybe newer investors or inexperienced. So my son, my 22-year-old, 23 as he is now, this I think was his first investment he did on the platform. He invested a couple £100. I mean, the smile on his face when he saw it back in his account with profit. As opposed to waiting 5 years to see if he gets his money back.
He's the one we're going to interview, yeah.
And I think there was a lot like him. I think there's a lot of ones like, we're like, okay, this is all new.
The timing was good as well. Like, it was pre-Christmas. It was, there was, and I absolutely get that the whole point of passive investing is, plug and go, if you like. Yeah. So, but equally, there could have been some uncertainty in the market. There could have been some, and certainly for the less experienced investors, that may have been a concern. And, I hate to use this phrase, but sometimes you have to take the money and run. And that was sort of the decision that we made at the time. And as we're going to hopefully discuss in a minute, it's allowing us to go on and do bigger projects, which ultimately sort of will feed the wheel and do more of them. So hopefully, and also there's an element of we wanted to prove ourselves to those people a little bit, and we could do that quicker. So
I think there's pros and cons in it, but certainly we're absolutely delighted as a platform in terms of successful project,
and I'm pleased your son's delighted.
Exactly. I'll pass on that. He'll probably see this on YouTube. He's one of the ones that works during the day and watches these on YouTube at night. So before then, we wrap up the webinar today, although I've got to mention a new deal that's about to go view deal on the platform, which actually is an income type project. But your next project on the way, Tina, do you want to just speak to this? Obviously, it's only coming soon at the minute, so we don't have figures in terms of ROIs and things like that, but just in terms of the actual project.
Yeah, so this is a sort of an extension to location for where Worthing is, for those that invested in the Worthing one, it's sort of just a bit further west in Bognor Regis, for those of us that are old enough to remember. It is quite a renowned holiday destination of the 80s and 90s. So it's got a pretty big Butlins and things like that nearby, and it's right on the seafront. This building is a very large commercial ground floor space, an old aquarium shop, and it was actually an existing 5-bedroom HMO upstairs. We've purchased the whole property already, and we are looking to refurbish it, extend it, and take some of the ground floor commercial space into the HMO to create a 12-bedroom HMO, and a small commercial unit.
Excellent. Okay, and we're just preparing this now, obviously, for you. So I would say within 7 to 10 days, it'll be view deal on the platform, and people can have a look at that, and we'll have our normal project webinars and possibly get back to a site visit at some point. I don't know whether it's maybe too early for this project, but it'd be good to let people come down and see another project and view the ones that you've completed in terms of this one and Duke Street, etc. So that's something we perhaps can plan. So, okay, listen, Tina, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to share that with us. Really appreciate that. And
there's a comment in the Q&A. It's not a question, it's a comment that, especially during COVID, but just in general in the property business, delays are common. So it's actually sort of fun to see something finish early, early with profit. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. That's a good way to end on that one. So just to mention then before we close, Becontree in Chadwell Heath, we had AJ on last week as our guest, talking about the build to rent strategy that he's employed very successfully over many years. This is a project that he has completed. I think there's only 3 years of rental accounts on the building. Top right is the building as it was. Bottom right is the building as it is now. So it's 9 apartments, commercially ground floor, fully let, and this will be a projected 12% ROI, effectively a share of the rent. So maximum rate is 200,000, minimum 100. Could be view deal today. It's view deal imminently. Everything's been signed off. Just waiting for the final sort of paperwork to be done. There's a project webinar for this on, I think that's be Tuesday night. So Tuesday night at 7 p.m. There's the registration link. This went out yesterday in our weekly update, and there's already a bunch of people have registered for the webinar. So you can quickly screen grab that now, or take a picture on your phone. So that's a project webinar. AJ will join us, perhaps some of his team as well, and we'll deep dive into this project, which is sort of 2 years income type project that is sharing the rent. So it's not a development. It doesn't have the risk that the development has. It's literally sharing the rent. So John, any comments on this project? I know we had AJ on last week and it was very good.
I know you just said it, but I want to truly highlight this. For anyone that's looking for income, this is strictly buy and rent. It's already been completed as a project to build out, has a track record of rents for the last 3 years. So if you're a buy and hold type investor, this is a 2-year opportunity to gain some income. There's nothing about this that's about planning uplift or any other plan changes. It's strictly like we're going to have a rental stream, and part of the rental stream will go to the passive investors. So this is possibly a complement. Go ahead.
Is the plan to pay monthly, quarterly, yearly, or at the end of the term?
Quarterly.
Quarterly.
It's a quarterly. Good question there. So it's quarterly paid. I mean, another way of saying it, I've just been reminded one of the staff. Another way of saying it, because it's a 2-year deal, it's a 24% ROI over 24 months, and paying quarterly because it is designed to be an income type product. So literally, the money gets invested, or the shares are purchased in the SPV. You become a shareholder, and you effectively get a share dividend.
I have to have a look at this one myself.
It's a good one. So I'm sure they'll be delighted to have you on board on that one. So yeah, again, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. You can jump on the webinar, get all your questions answered. AJ will be there. and then it'll be going live quite soon after that. So again, at View Deal, you can get on, get the offer document downloaded, do all your research, and then come to the webinar with any questions you have, and we'll get them answered. So that literally takes us to the end of the day, except a reminder, if you haven't already, please get on and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Everyone who's on here today, just take 30 seconds, log into the YouTube channel. There's our URL at the top. And if you haven't already, click subscribe so we can get these numbers up on that. So I can see who all's on today. So I'll be chasing you if you haven't subscribed within about the next 20 minutes. So with that, John, I think that is us for today. So any last minute comments before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it. But the AJ's project is, in a sense, very similar to what the project that we just heard about that was sold early. It's, again, you earn your money from the rents. And there's a lot of property investors who are very vanilla investors. They want to buy something, they want to hold it. They're looking for the income stream. So it's rare to see buy and hold on a crowdfunding site. So here's one to take a look at.
Yeah, I just see a comment in from someone saying that they normally catch this on YouTube. They're on today, but it's very unusual to catch these live, but they do tune into YouTube, which is one of the reasons we do these. So we provide the content that can be accessed in the future for learning and the benefit of everyone. So, okay, listen, with that, thanks everyone for joining us. Really appreciate it. Have a fantastic Thursday and a great weekend, and we'll see you again next week. Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.